March 2nd, 2026. The morning after the Ayatollah. Global markets brace as Iran's interim leadership vows a limitless response to Operation Epic Fury. Breaking. Pentagon confirms 6 American killed in action as retaliatory Iranian missiles strike U.S. assets in Qatar and the UAE. Oil hits $125 a barrel. Major insurers pull all coverage for the Strait of Hormuz, effectively severing the world's most critical energy artery. The Trump doctrine in action. President tells the Iranian people, the hour of your freedom is at hand, as the second wave of strikes target IRGC holdouts. Hey folks, Devin Hilston-Smith, your host of Site Selectors Are People Too. This is going to be a little bit more of a somber episode. It's also going to be about current events, which is abnormal. Both of those are abnormal for this podcast. But as I indicated in the cold opening, today is Monday, March 2nd, and that marks 2 days following Saturday's strikes in Iran. I'm going to caveat this by saying I hope to God that I am wrong in my prognostication of what's going on here and what's going to come, but I have a feeling I'm not. So again, it is Monday, March 2nd. Since Saturday's strikes in Iran, we have confirmed the death of the Iranian Ayatollah, the destruction over 1,000 targets, and most somberly and soberly, the first Americans KIA of the conflict. So last Friday, the reason why we're talking about this is we're going to put this in the perspective of site selection. Everybody is talking about this in terms of global affairs, military might, of course, covering the tragic loss of multiple Americans in this conflict. But I'm going to go ahead and put this in business terms, in trade terms. Last Friday, your biggest worry was likely a 50 basis point interest rate fluctuation. Today, the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed. 20% of the world's oil is trapped. 20% of the world's oil is trapped. And the Trump administration has signaled a maximalist regime change goal. As one of the headlines in the cold open stated, in response, Iran's interim leadership vowed a limitless response to us. So between the U.S. vowing a maximalist regime change goal and Iran's interim leadership vowing a limitless response, where does this take us? First, it takes us to the position of empathy. We start with empathy. Many of our colleagues have family in the region or children in uniform. And we aren't just moving chess pieces, we're navigating a world in mourning and chaos. So, the first main theme, we're going to have 3-4 of these. The first main theme today is the death of the global grid. What I'm calling the supply chain cardiac arrest. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz has frozen 18%, nearly 20% of global air cargo and 30% of LNG. Now, from the perspective of a site selection shift, let's think about exit China versus exit everywhere. We've talked about China plus one for years. This conflict is forcing an exit everywhere mentality for critical components. If a part touches the Persian Gulf, it's now considered a liability. We also need to watch for a surge in inland port demand. Sites like Greer, South Carolina, Mid-Texas, and the Ohio River Valley are no longer secondary options. They are safe harbors away from vulnerable coastal congestion. Site selectors must now advise clients to move from just in time back to just in case that we saw during COVID. This means doubling the footprint of warehouse specs to accommodate 6-month stockpiles of semiconductors and EV batteries currently stranded in Jebel Ali. Think about the impact, folks, that the global pandemic had on the global economy. Again, like I just said, moving from just in time to just in case, if we think the era of oversized, over-volumed warehouse square footage is over, think again. I think the developers that put up those warehouses back in the early 2020s, oh my gosh, the early 2020s, we are no longer in the early 2020s. That is a mind F. Okay, well, there's still going to be a bit of humor or just random Devin thoughts in this episode, apparently. But think about it. The developers who put up those warehouses during COVID that then went through a decline in demand because we started to stabilize again, think about the need for that extra warehouse space. That is a silver lining to this whole situation. The fact that the real estate market is going to see a decrease in usage and increase in vacancy. The entire the warehouse section of the industrial sector of the real estate market. We also have to think about what was mentioned in the cold opening, the $125 barrel and this energy fortress. So the macro math, oil is trending towards $125 per barrel. In the US, gas prices jumped 10 to 15 cents this morning alone. And we also have to consider the nuclear premium. Site selection in 2026 is now a hunt for energy independence. States with high nuclear baseloads, think Illinois, the Carolinas, and Georgia, are suddenly much more attractive than regions dependent on natural gas peaker plants. That makes the additional case for small modular reactors. Any EDO that can promise a site with an SMR on-ramp or a microgrid is going to win the next 24 months. Plain and simple. We've also got the cyber surcharge. Iran's retaliatory low-cost drone and cyber strategy has already hit Gulf hubs, AWS/Azure latency spikes, right? Site selectors are now asking, is this site 50 miles away from a tier 1 military target? Dull, rural, and redundant. That is the new sexy. So, because we're responding to a current event and it's just me instead of having a guest on, because I decided to do this kind of last second after really digging back into the news, it's going to be a short episode. The shortest episode potentially ever on Site Selectors or People 2. And we are going to go to break. See you in a few. Bye. Okay, we're back. So, segment number 3 in this 4-part series, it's going to be 4 parts. Let's talk about the warflation labor crisis. So, with regards to the reservoir of talent, the U.S. flow of additional forces to the Middle East the labor pool is thinning, and it's going to continue to thin. And there's a hidden metric here. Site selectors need to track reservist density. If an area has a high concentration of National Guard or reservists, common in manufacturing hubs, a sustained conflict could draft 3 to 5% of your skilled workforce overnight. Overnight. And so what's your pivot if you're an economic developer? If you're an economic developer, your pitch has to change today. The old pitch, we have great golf courses and 5-year tax breaks. New pitch, we have a redundant, hardened power grid and an inland rail terminal and a workforce, quite frankly, not going anywhere. And this isn't being flippant. The realities, the impacts of our sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, parents being called up to go to war, I don't want to sound flippant. The real impacts are on the battlefield. But in the context of this show, the best economic developers are going to recognize that no matter how far away this conflict is, it's going to have impacts on us here in the homeland. It is. And so, as you're going to hear at the cold open for tomorrow morning's show, teaser, you're not going to miss that one. We always have to, even in the most dire of situations, look for opportunities. And those economic developers that are able to coldly assess what's going on for the betterment of their own communities, I would be proud to call myself a resident of wherever you are, Mr. and Mrs. Economic Developer, taking this situation and trying to make lemons out of lemonade. As small of those lemons may be and as voluminous as that lemonade might seem. So, again, very short show, but let's talk about, maybe the Epic Fury stress test, a checklist for site selectors. And we're going to go through 4 different variables, and we're going to give the Friday perspective, and we're going to give the Monday reality, just to show how quickly conflict on the almost other side of the world can impact us here at home. So logistics, the Friday perspective, lowest cost per mile. The Monday reality, highest number of transit modes, rail, road, air, barge. Energy, the Friday perspective, market rate natural gas, bring it on all day long. The Monday reality, fixed rate nuclear or on-site renewables. Cyber, the Friday perspective, standard SOC 2 compliance, SOC 2 compliance. The Monday reality, physical air gapping and boring geography. I don't mean boring as in boring like drilling. I mean boring. Capital. The Friday perspective, growth-focused internal rate of return. The Monday reality, survival-focused cash flow continuity. So in closing, folks, despite how far away this conflict may seem, expect it to come to your doorsteps sooner than you expect. We need to learn to choose continuity over margin. In a peaceful world, you select for margin. In the world of Operation Epic Fury, you select for continuity. The world is getting smaller because the risks are getting larger. Our job as site selectors is to expand the safe zone for the companies that keep the economy moving. That is our role as economic developers, as site selectors. Help to keep this flippin' economy moving. Again, my name is Devin Hilston-Smith. I am the host of Site Selectors Are People Too. We are coming in under 16 minutes on this episode. I couldn't be more proud. Please, if you have a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a friend, a significant other, an acquaintance who's either serving or is being called up to serve, reach out to them. Tell them you appreciate everything they're doing on the war front, and you're doing everything you can here in the homeland. Have a good night. Just a heads up, views expressed in this podcast are solely my own and are not attributable to any employers, whether past or present. Thank you.